Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video. In this video, I'll be ranking the games developed by the company Telltale Games. Now, Telltale is a company that I've really loved ever since this first season of The Walking Dead, and I've pretty much followed them ever since, up until their closure in, 2018. So for this video, I'll be ranking every game that they've developed ever since The Walking Dead Season 1. Now, I decided to exclude games like Back to the Future and Jurassic Park, where I think there could be debate for them being on this list. However, I just felt like they were so radically different that I decided to exclude them. There are 13 games to be going through here, so let's just jump straight into it with number 12. So yeah, I'm starting off with number 12 here because I'm kind of mixing two of these games into one. And at number 12, at the very bottom here for me, is Minecraft Story Mode. Essentially, it's Season 1 and Season 2. Just going to mix them into one here and put it at number 12. I don't like Minecraft Story Mode. Full disclosure here, I've only finished Season 1. I have started Season 2. It was so boring that I just didn't even finish it, and I hated Season 1 to begin with. They're both pretty bad. I mean, they're both very kid-friendly. They're meant to be for, I don't know, probably 5 to 10-year-olds. I really just had no interest in anything that was going on. It was funny, though, to see some of the, standard Telltale voice actors in these games, like Dave Vinoy being in this game is just really, really strange. But really, from a gameplay perspective, this game brought absolutely nothing to the table that I particularly cared for. Narratively, it was just kind of boring, and at points it was a complete mess anyway. The fact that Season 1 is 8 episodes is ridiculous, with the final 3 episodes being DLC that they added later, and those episodes are just completely pointless. There's just nothing about Minecraft Story Mode that I particularly like, so it's here at the very bottom of the list. Now at number 11 is another game that I don't particularly care for, and that is The Walking Dead Michonne, the mini-series that was released by Telltale. Only 3 episodes here, and they're all pretty short, too. It's just bad. It's really boring. Again, it follows Michonne, who is probably one of the better characters from the comic book, but, it's not written well. A lot of the characters here are either unlikable or boring. Gameplay-wise, it's your typical Telltale fare. I don't even think they added any sort of new gameplay mechanic within this mini-series. It's really just a pointless game, and it's one that I struggled to get through on the replay. It's one that, I just really didn't care about anything that was going on. It's just pointless, it's soulless, it's here at number 11. So now at number 10, we're getting to the ones that I've played multiple times. Every game within my top 10 here, I've played at least 4 times, with the exception of the 2 newest games that obviously we'll talk about later. But here at number 10, my least favorite of these games is Guardians of the Galaxy. And I feel like this was a big turning point for Telltale, where I feel like this is the point where they realized that they needed to change their ways. I feel like this is a game that just feels so, again, soulless is the way I would describe it. In the sense that it just feels like they're copying off of, obviously, the other Guardian of the Galaxy things, like the films, the animated TV show, the comics. It just feels like they're just copying it and then adding in their typical Telltale fare. It doesn't feel like they're really doing anything unique here. They're not trying anything new. They're solely just adapting. And I feel like because of that, it makes this game feel very bland. Obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy is known for its humor. I don't feel like any of the jokes within this game were particularly funny. I also feel like kind of the middle of this game is kind of bland as well. I think it has an okay premiere, okay finale. Those middle couple episodes are just kind of boring. So overall for me, Guardians of the Galaxy is just kind of a forgettable game that they've made, so it ranks here at number 10. At number 9 is a game that I used to rank a lot higher. However, after my recent replay, I just didn't really care for it, and that is Game of Thrones. And I remember loving this when I first played it. Even to the point where I remember being super excited for Season 2. But now we're at the point where obviously Season 2 more than likely isn't coming. Obviously someone bought the Telltale name and is restarting the company and whatever, but more than likely we're still not getting a Season 2 of Game of Thrones. And it's really strange because this is one of the few games that needs it. I feel like Game of Thrones, they ended on a cliffhanger, which is really strange. And it seemed like they never really intended on doing a sequel right away. But I will say there are things that I like. I think most of the Forresters are decent characters. I do think the first half of the season is very strong. I do feel like it gets a lot weaker after that, though. I think episodes 4 and 5 just really drag and are really just pointless. It's really strange that this is the Telltale game. They expanded to 6 episodes, and it's why? Why are we doing this? This could easily be told, even in 4, if you really wanted to. it just feels like they kept on adding in more and more filler to the series. That, and also the fact that they just shoehorn in a lot of these TV characters as well, as each of the Forresters end up having like some sort of relationship with one of the TV characters, is just kind of dumb. By the end of it, I really just didn't care anymore. And it's really strange the way this game was constructed, where by the end of this season, most of the characters could be dead. So I don't understand how they were really planning on doing a sequel anyway. But whatever, it's a weird game. Game of Thrones here ranks at number 9. At number 8, we're finally getting to the main series of The Walking Dead. And here at number 8, we have A New Frontier. And A New Frontier is not good, but it's something that I feel like I enjoy a lot more when I play it. It's like when I'm playing it, I'm not thinking, oh, this is just terrible. I'm thinking like, okay, this is fine. This is a like tolerable Telltale game. But when playing it, I do enjoy it more than I do when playing obviously like Guardians or like Game of Thrones. And to be honest, even debatably, probably even a few of the games that we'll be talking about a little bit later. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's something about A New Frontier that even though I recognize it's not good, I still end up enjoying it. Now, obviously some major flaws with A New Frontier. I think the writing is abysmal at points. I think a lot of the characters are unlikable or really just have very faulty motivations. The last few episodes are pretty much just strings of cutscenes with very few exploration sections. But I do like Javi as a character. I don't love that Clementine's role was so minimized in this season. And also for this entire season to be kind of pointless by the time of season 4, because Javi or none of the characters from this season end up showing up in season 4, kind of sucks as well. It really just feels like a side story. It's kind of just strange to me that it is part of the main series, because I feel like the final season could have easily been season 3, and this have just been a spin-off. And while it does have a lot of flaws, it is something that I still enjoy, so it's here at number 8. So now at number 7, we have another game that I actually really enjoyed when I first played it, and I still don't dislike it on the replay, but I feel like I enjoyed a lot of other games more on the replay, and that is Batman, the Telltale series, Season 1. Its writing is okay. It's nothing spectacular, but it's not abysmal. It's not bad. It's not like A New Frontier. It's there. I mean, like, that's really how I could describe it. It's such an average Telltale game. It does focus a lot more on Bruce Wayne than it does on Batman, which is fine. I think that's pretty much what I would want anyway from a Telltale game. I do think some of the action scenes can get annoying. I think there's probably a bit too many of them for my liking, but it's still fine. I think the villains here are pretty strong, even though the Harvey Dent stuff is very determinant on your decisions. I think if you go one path, everything he does makes sense. If you go the other path, everything he does is just kind of dumb. Penguin's a fun villain here. I think Lady Arkham was a pretty okay villain. I did like the reveal, though. I mean, even though I think it became pretty apparent that Vicky Vale was going to be an antagonist, I do like the appearance of the Joker here and how they set up season 2 within this season. I do like the addition of the detective scenes where you have to find evidence and then connect the evidence together and all that stuff. I think it's fun. I think overall, again, this is a solid Telltale game, but it really doesn't do anything spectacularly well. So it ranks here at number 7, pretty much at the middle of the list. At number 6, I have a game that I initially thought was going to be ranked a bit higher when I first played it, and kind of just lowered on the list by the time I made the rankings here, and that is The Walking Dead, the final season. And I still enjoy this season. I think the first 2 episodes are very strong. I really enjoy the first 2 episodes. The second half is okay. I have a lot of problems with the ending. I just don't particularly like what they did there with that final episode, where you spend the entire final episode trying to return to the school, and then Clementine gets bit, and then they do the fake out of her being dead, and it's like, I really wanted them to either go and do the Lee parallels or have her have a happy ending. I didn't want them to do both, because I just feel like that's such a cop-out to do both. I really like Clementine and AJ's dynamic here. I think the entirety of episode 1 is very strong. I love the ending of episode 1. But I also have to commend them from a gameplay perspective. I feel like this was a very big sign that Telltale was starting to change their ways. Again, it's sad that this was the last game they were able to make before they closed, but I do feel like this was a sign that they were willing to change up their gameplay style finally. They were changing from what they had done over and over and over again and turning it into like an actual game. Like, there was an actual combat system within this game. There were collectibles in this game. It was really what I've been wanting Telltale to do for forever now, and they finally actually did it. But it's just a shame that they didn't have the resources to continue on and further improve upon this mold. But yeah, as much as I commend them for the change in gameplay, the combat system still is a bit clunky. And also, the writing is sloppy at points, so it still ranks here at number 6. Now, at number 5, I have another season of The Walking Dead. I have The Walking Dead Season 2, which is a season I have such mixed opinions on, because I think the first 3 episodes are some of the best episodes Telltale has ever done. Then we get the last 2, which are 2 of the worst episodes Telltale has ever done. Like, it's a really strange thing here where I'm usually a big fan of the ending of stories, but I feel like Telltale is always able to start their stories well, but never actually conclude them well. And I feel like season 2 of The Walking Dead is a big example of this. Where, to be fair, episode 1 is okay. Episode 2, I think, is an improvement upon that, and I think episode 3 is one of the best episodes ever, with Carver just being one of the best villains Telltale has ever done. Then after that, we get episodes 4 and 5, which have such like spotty writing, really unlikable characters throughout, a lot of weird choices and weird character motivations. Like, I just really don't care for those last 2 episodes. But again, I just really loved everything that had to do with Carver. I also thought Clementine obviously was fantastic in this season as the protagonist. I thought Kenny was really great in this season as well, probably even better than he was in the first season. Where in my opinion, he was the only good thing about those last couple episodes. And it's funny because, like, I actually hated this season when it first came out. I remember absolutely hating it. I thought it just sucked in comparison to obviously season 1, which we'll talk about later. But I do think, like, on my replays I've done since then, I've really grown more of an appreciation for it. Even though, as I said, it is still a mixed bag, but for me, it still lands here at number 5. Now at number 4 is a game that I was set to rank much lower, but after replaying it, I really just adored it, and that is Batman: The Enemy Within, Season 2 of Batman Telltale, and I really enjoyed it on the replay. Now, this is one of the few games I haven't played more than twice, this and obviously The Walking Dead, the final season. But when I first played it, I got the Vigilante Joker ending, and I found that one to just be okay. I thought it was alright. Again, I was set to place this at number 6 on the list, but on the replay, I did opposite decisions, and I ended up getting the Villain Joker ending, and I just thought that one was so much stronger. Like, it's like leaps and bounds better than the other one. And I think because of that, it makes, like, episode 5 of this season one of my favorite episodes that Telltale has ever done. And overall, I do really enjoy this season. Again, I think it improves upon season 1 in every single way. I mean, this season really focuses on the relationship between Batman and John Doe, also known as the Joker. I also feel like there were a lot of chances that they took here, which again, I think this is kind of a transitional game where Telltale started to take some more chances after realizing that what they had been doing hadn't been working. Where, again, episode 5 is radically different based on the choices that you make. Whether you're nice or mean to the Joker essentially decides what episode 5 is going to be. And for them to essentially make 2 radically different versions of episode 5 is very impressive to me. Now, there obviously are still your dumb typical moments from Telltale where some of your decisions don't matter and all that sort of stuff, but I think for what they typically do to what they actually did here, I feel like this was a pretty big step up. I thought it was a pretty worthy successor to season 1. So because of all that, it easily ranks here at number 4. Now we're on to the top tier of Telltale games in my opinion. These top 3 are pretty solidly my top 3. Like, I don't even think it's really close. But the question is the order. And for me, at number 3, I have The Wolf Among Us. And I really love The Wolf Among Us. I think The Wolf Among Us is quite possibly the best written game that they've done. I think the narrative here is really strong. The themes are very well developed. They have pretty well fleshed out characters. Again, I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, you wouldn't expect a Telltale game to have perfect writing, but it's still really good and a perfect sort of prequel to the Fable series. I think Bigby is one of my favorite protagonists in any Telltale game. The Crooked Man is a very solid villain, and really overall it's just a great sort of murder mystery story. But that being said, it's still a murder mystery story, and with that comes not much replayability. I think the problem for me with The Wolf Among Us is that every single time I replay it, I enjoy it less and less. I feel like obviously knowing where it's going with this story, it makes it less enjoyable for me, which is really strange considering I am someone that does like revisiting media. I'm someone that replays games over and over again, rewatches movies and TV shows over and over again. But I feel like with The Wolf Among Us, it's really something that doesn't really stick every single time you replay it. But that being said, again, it has a great set of characters. It is well written. It's set in a really fun world. But that replayability is a major factor in why I have it here at number 3. So number 2, the second best Telltale game, in my opinion, is Tales from the Borderlands. The thing about Tales from Borderlands is that it feels like a really good, like, sci-fi action movie. It's easily the funniest Telltale game. Obviously, some of the best jokes in the entire series are from this game. It's really, I mean, it's kind of just dumb comedy, but it's really strong. And kind of what you would expect from Borderlands. And again, I think a really strong cast of characters here. I mean, Reese, Fiona, Sasha, Vaughn. And also just the voice acting cast in this season is ridiculous as well. Episode 1 itself just feels like a feature-length film in the way that's structured and presented. I really like the dynamic between Reese and Handsome Jack. I really love those final 2 episodes, which are 2 of my favorite Telltale episodes ever. I like the way they construct the narrative here, where you kind of start in media res, where Reese and Fiona are captured by who you later find out is Loaderbot, and he's asking them to retell their story. They retell it, and then in the final episode, we finally catch up to where we are. I think that added a great sense of gravitas to the story, where it doesn't just take place all in a row. It takes place over the course of months. Now, from a gameplay perspective, it doesn't do anything new. I mean, again, it's your typical Telltale fare, but I do think the way it's presented is perfect for part of the Borderlands franchise. So because of all that, it ranks here at number 2. Now at number 1, the best Telltale game ever made is very easily The Walking Dead. Season 1, no question for me. I mean, again, it's the one that got me into the series. It's the one that really impacted me in my view on gaming as a whole. I mean, I just adored this first season when I played it. It was the first of these sort of narrative-focused games that I played. I mean, there's so many gut-wrenching moments to this season, like when Carly gets killed, when you have the killed duck, the moment where Lee gets bitten, the moment at the very end, that last scene between Lee and Clementine is one of my favorite scenes in the history of media. Lee Everett is one of my favorite characters in all of gaming. This is the game that set the standard for Telltale and the formula that they replicated over and over and over again. And while again, I don't think it's the best written game out of the bunch, I do think it's very high up there. And I should also mention that confrontation with the stranger, another one of my all-time favorite moments in gaming. Stuff with Crawford is really fun. The stuff on the farm with the St. John's is really great. I mean, it's such a fantastic season all around. Each of the episodes are 5 of the best episodes Telltale's ever done. Again, I do have my faults with it. I do think the train section does go on for a bit too long. I do think episode 1 is just kind of okay, especially once you reach Macon. But overall, it's just such a fantastic season. Such great characters. I mean, obviously Lee, Clementine, Kenny, Carly, Lily, Larry, Krista, Omid. I mean, even Ben has his moments. I think this is just a pretty strong game in general. One of my favorite games of all time, and definitely the best game that Telltale has ever made. So there we go. That is my list of the best games developed by Telltale since The Walking Dead Season 1. Kind of an arbitrary list, but either way, this is kind of a culmination of this, 1.5 month journey that I took on replaying all these Telltale games in preparation for the video. So that's everything. That's everything I gotta say about all these Telltale games. So for now, thank you for watching.